My name is Jeanne Rubin, and I am on the board of Gala North Texas, which is a nonpartisan, nonprofit group that educates and celebrates diversity and enhances equality in North Texas. I live in Wiley with my wife of 19 years, Lisa, and a crazy little Shiba Inu mix named Scout, who we call our grumpy old man. I've been involved in LGBTQ advocacy, politics, education, probably almost since I came out at 24, but certainly more in the last 20 or so years, and definitely more since I moved to Texas, where I found the need was more than it was in my home city of Philadelphia, which was a very safe and different place to come out even in the 80s. That's a good question. Pride, when I think of pride, I think of a desire to recreate the feeling very personally that I first had when I walked into my first lesbian bar as in my young 20s. It was a feeling of safety, it was a feeling of euphoria, it was a feeling of belonging, and it was a feeling of coming home. And that's what I think we all try to recreate, or at least personally I try and recreate with pride, is that feeling. So that's the personal answer. And then I guess the professional, I don't know if that's quite the right word, but what it means to the community as a whole is a chance to identify, to be who we are, to get that same feeling that I personally get, but to get it as a group and to let the larger community see us that way. Well, first, I think it's cliche, but it probably can't be said often enough, and that is that it does get better. Well, I did come out later in life, and most people in this day and age come out a lot younger, and I recognize how much harder that can be. I do think that as you get older, certain things are easier, and being LGBTQ, I believe, is one of them. You are more within yourself, you are more authentic, you grow into yourself. And you learn to surround yourself with people who support you as you are, who let you be your authentic self. You're not confined by a family who may not support you, or a school district that may not support you, or a religious community that may not support you. You get to create your own world, so to speak. And that will make your life better, I promise. Well, I was really lucky. I grew up on the East Coast. As I said earlier, I grew up in Philadelphia. I grew up to a liberal Jewish family. I had a sister who had already come out as a lesbian. So I recognize the privilege that I have, not just in my race and my socioeconomic background, but also in the environment in which I came out. And I get that that's not how it is for everybody. So I was a lucky 24-year-old coming out. But still, I think there's an internal struggle. And still, I think, even in the day, in the present day of internet and television that shows LGBTQ characters, still we hear from youth that they feel alone. And that, again, I think is encapsulates the what's important about Pride, that it transcends. It's an event and a celebration, if you will, that transcends all the things that that our community has heard from families and places of worship and employers or workplaces, that we're not good enough, that we're sinners, or we're abnormal, or whatever the case may be, and that pride allows us to be exactly who we are, and that in and of itself, I think, is it's more than just pride. It's more than sort of what you think of when you think of pride. It's letting people be who they are, and there's nothing that compares to that feeling. Well, I think the first thing is to educate yourself, and that is easier to do now, obviously, than it used to be. You can search for Stonewall Inn or Stonewall riots, and you can read about the history of our movement and where it began, and what this year is the 50-year anniversary of the infamous Stonewall riots. You can search for famous LGBTQ people and learn about those important people in our past, from the women of color who stood up at the Stonewall Inn, to Harvey Milk, who ran for office, to those in our community right now who continue to stand up and fight the good fight. You can ask questions. You can stand up when somebody tells an off-color or an insulting joke and tell them that you don't find that funny. You can just listen when your LGBTQ friends or family want to talk, and you can accept that what they're telling you is exactly how they feel. Just listen and accept their feelings as authentic. Well, thank you for caring enough to watch this. Thank you for Terry for caring enough to do it. I think it's still important. I know some people have said that Pride has become commercialized, but I personally have mixed feelings about that. I know some of the big companies are donating a lot of money to our causes, and so I do feel good about that. And I think only we can keep the pride and the identity in the celebration and not let the commercial take over.